Hi, Nick.
Hello, Nathan.
Welcome, folks, as you're getting on here. Nathan Day and Nick Fitzsimmons. Excited to be here. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you all so much for joining us. To get my name to show up there, I don't want Nick feel too special. All right, and we always love to see where people are watching from, so stick there in the comments where you guys are watching from. Maybe if you got some snow out there, if you had a white Christmas. Nick and I were just talking how fun it was to have Christmas with some toddlers running around. So it was pretty fun there. So we both are
new experiences
to be daddies.
Yeah, for some young dads, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, Christmas is definitely more fun the older they get. That's for sure.
No doubt.
I will say this: ours slept in until about 8:30 Christmas morning, and we didn't open gifts until about 11. And I can guarantee you that will be the last time that'll happen for another 10 years, probably. So
for sure.
Until he's 14 and we're dragging him out of bed. That's probably what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got some people joining here.
Yeah, I got Becky down in New Braunfels. Thanks for joining. Amy in Kansas. Ryan in Illinois. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Philip, Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for joining.
And I know we say this every time, but we want this one to be as interactive as possible. And so any questions, please just go ahead and type those in the chat and we'll keep track of that. But we're going to make this one pretty interactive because it is the two of us basically talking through these products and kind of how we would recommend using them. And so if you have any questions whatsoever, there's no dumb question. Just go ahead and throw that in there.
Yeah, we're probably going to have some of our Sunglo team, I think, is going to maybe be joining us in the comments. So if you've got questions over there in the comments too that maybe they can answer and fire off real quick, they might try to do that. If they've got some more detailed stuff also, then we can bring it up. I know that a lot of you have probably seen some of these before, but we can pull the questions up over into the screen, which makes it good for everybody to see and can highlight it. So we always give this thing a couple more minutes here till about five after our start time so we can get more and more folks on here watching. So if you could click the share button, we want to get this out to as many people as possible because the whole point of this is for us to educate you guys and then really give you some tips and some tools that you can go out to your barn and take it into practice. So we're an open book. I mean, I will not lie that cattle is not necessarily my specialty, but it is Nick's. So he is happy to answer and I'll kind of be the guide here in the process. So we'll get started in just a couple minutes and keep it coming here where you guys are coming. Hi, Brittany down in Southern Florida. I'm sure it's a cool and comfortable 72 down there. We've got Caitlin in Nova, Ohio, Marty in Ohio, Brittany just typed the name in there. That's all right. Heather in Wisconsin, Crystal in Florida. A couple Florida folks tuning in here. So that's always good to see.
They've been pretty consistent on these Facebook Lives from Florida.
Yeah, that's great. That's a state that's really starting to take livestock shows really, really seriously. So it's really great to see them tuning in. Appreciate you guys. Becky in Indiana, Boswell. I'm not even really sure where Boswell is, to be honest with you. I ought to know that.
It's in Indiana.
That's true. Yes, it is. Ashley in Iowa. Thanks for tuning in. Another Central Florida. Jerry's tuning in. Appreciate it. Annika in Illinois. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and get started. It's about 5 after. My name is Nathan Day. I'm the marketing specialist for Sunglo Feeds, and I'm joined with Nick Fitzsimmons, one of our show feed teammates over out in Oklahoma. So tonight's going to be fun. So tonight we're going to talk about our kind of 5 go-to supplements as we head towards the final 30 days. And we just kind of use 30 days as a benchmark, but that's not necessarily the only time that you can use these supplements. We just wanted to use a good benchmark there as you're getting rolling there into the final 30 days of a show. Already got a good question there from Matt. We'll get to that here. Yeah, we'll get to that here in a few minutes. So the way that we'll kind of do this is we'll talk about, we'll kind of go in order in terms of full body, full tank to the fullest, and then we'll get into man up and show cattle explosion. So again, keep the questions rolling as we start to talk about these, and we'll show some examples of what cattle have been fed these products and gotten along really well with them. And then as well, we'll pull up what that product actually looks like if you've never seen the product itself. So Nick, I'd say we might as well get rolling here. We'll go ahead and jump right into full body. So full body is a product that's 12% protein, 3% fat, and a 26% fiber pellet. So Nick, I will let you take it from there, my friend.
For sure. Yeah, and the biggest reason why we're wanting to get this Facebook Live done is we're rolling into some shows here. And so from a timing standpoint, with Oklahoma City Cattlemen's Congress here starting this weekend, actually, and then county and major shows as in Texas and Oklahoma coming up here before we know it. We think this would be a good time to go ahead and have this. And as we talk through these first three supplements, I would tell you that initially, or maybe what people think of right off the bat, is that these are for heifers. And I guess probably that's something that comes to mind for me because that's what we run around here, and those will be some of the photos that we throw up. But I think especially with these steers and kind of how we're feeding some of these things a little longer and later into maturity, I think these products work exceptionally well on the steer side of things, and actually growing quite a bit of popularity with all three of the U.S. steer feeders. And so I think not only if you got heifers in the barn, but those steer guys as well, be listening up, and there's some good stuff here, I think, to go ahead and try. And full body, which has always been my favorite in our lineup because it's so versatile, is a product that we use year round. And so we have it down here as the final 30 days because I think that's a crucial period to have it in your feeding strategy. But it's always in our diets, and we keep it in there 24/7, 365. If one's on feed here at our barn, this is in their feed. But I think the biggest thing in those final 30 days is this is something that helps with, and Nathan's heard me say it 1,000 times, but just curvature of body shape everywhere. And so not only from that 3/4 shot when you're talking outward curvature to the rib cage, but also from that side view profile like we get in the ring, it's helping with depth of body. And so I think it's something that is only going to improve that appearance regardless of where you're looking at that animal at. And so to have that in there specifically for tonight in this final 30 days, I think is awfully important. And the other thing is too, we find, and it's just kind of an added bonus that we didn't initially think of as a team, but if you have cattle that maybe have never been on this before, and even if you're rolling to the show and you just need something different to get them going, this is such a palatable feed, and they actually do like the taste of it. But that's something that you can add in there to kind of get them going again. And so we all have it at times where things can get a little complacent and maybe they just get a little bored with what you're feeding them. This would be another great thing to add in there that's going to help with everything that you're trying to do when you're going to a show. And that's just get them full, get them the right depth of body, and just keep everything going in the right direction.
Yeah, how many times do you see walking through any show, almost regardless of species, or when you see that frantic person kind of running around trying to scoop things up from different feed sacks, just kind of making their way through the backside of the chutes or the aisles, just trying to find something that calf or that pig or that lamb or whatever needs to eat just a little bit. Man, like Nick said, this is a great option there for you. So, Nick, I'm going to pull up a couple really good examples here of cattle that have got along using full body. Wanted you to kind of speak on them here too.
For sure, yeah. So this first photo would be Kelton Arthur's Charolais heifer that was supreme, I believe it was 2 years ago at the American Royal there in Kansas City, and a family that we lean on pretty heavily, and we use their picture a lot because they believe in our product. And specifically this one here, I think if you would ask Jared, and hopefully he doesn't make me a liar, but this would be something that's his go-to with especially these Charolais females, but then as well as he's getting into some of these other breeds on the heifer side and feeding it to those steers as well. But I know with the way that he feeds those things, he feels pretty confident in this, helping again with that body shape that you're always trying to keep in these females and still keeping them fresh. And so as we look here at this banner running across the bottom of our screen here with the protein, fat, and fiber, and maybe this isn't the most PC feed thing to say, but I would tell you that this feed doesn't necessarily feed like its tag suggests. And what I mean by that is it reads as a 12% protein and a 3% fat, but I've never seen one actually get fat on this. And that's a big stigma as we're feeding heifers, is we don't want them to get fat, and everybody's very aware of that, and I am too, of course. But I've fed this to the farthest level that I think you can, and I've never seen one get fat. And honestly, made this into its entire diet at times, which it can be. It is a complete feed. It is fortified for that to be done. But I fed this at pretty high levels, and I've never seen one get fat. It always helps with body shape. It doesn't get them too just muscular and juicy muscled, but it does keep them bloomy. And so, again, that's why it's always been a favorite of mine, because I think it only does positive for any animal that it's in their feed, and we rely on it pretty heavily around here. And again, that's why the photos here, Jared does too, and he's got a lot of success, not because of specifically only this feed, but I think it's something that he keeps in his arsenal and leans on pretty heavy.
Yeah. Would you say, and maybe this is me coming from a show pig background, sometimes it can be tougher on, whiter or lighter colored, lighter heighted animals to make them look like they're maybe as massive, or maybe look like they've got just as much as maybe some of the darker pigmented ones do. Do you see that in the cattle side too?
For sure. Yeah, that's a great point, and not one that I probably would have thought of to bring up tonight, but I think that is a very good point. You got to get those things right in their body shape. And the other thing is I think whenever you get them into those bright lights, maybe like a ring like the American Royal, they can maybe look a little piecey if you don't have that body shape just right, because the light hits those livestock just a little bit differently. And so, yeah, for sure, you got to have those things on the money in terms of just presentation and body shape and the way everything ties together. And this is something that I think definitely helps with that. But yeah, good point.
While we're on full body here, let's pull up another example too. That picture pull up on your end?
Yeah, it's coming a little bit slow, but I know what it is already. So This would be the Clark family, and they were Supreme at OIE last year with this main female, either Supreme or Reserve Supreme. Sorry, I don't have all my exact facts here tonight with some of these photos, but I know she was either Grand or Reserve at OIE, purebred main. And this would be something that I know I talked to Jeremy there at that show that year, and he said what he likes so much about this specific product is whenever you have these heifers kicked out, and not maybe pressing on them as much with just an actual grain diet, and you kind of just got them let out and be cows, he keeps this in their feeders and goes out and gives them a scoop or whatever. He said what he likes so much about it is it keeps their belly full, and so you're not really shrinking up that rib cage and kind of losing what you've worked on to that point, and it keeps them just a little fresher and some of that, I guess you'd say, bloom, but you're not pressing on them with grain and kind of getting them that corn-fed fat look that I think you're constantly trying to stay away from when you have them kicked out, because the name of the game on these heifers is obviously a lot of stop and start. And so when you have them kicked out, you're trying not to lose everything that you've worked on to that point, but you also want them to kind of lean up and get fresh and turn back into cattle again. And so this is something that I think you can definitely keep in their diet to go ahead and, again, not lose what you've attempted to get to that point.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, while we're going, we've got a question here from Jerry that I'm going to pull up in the chat. I don't know if you saw that over there, asking about finishing a steer, maybe adding in some full body. We pulled that up up on the screen here. So, Nick, go ahead.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And especially if you feel like you're close or you're kind of on track from a finish standpoint, I think it's always a great idea to get something like this in their diet. And the other thing is, too, just from a body shape standpoint, it's just as important in the steer ring. And so, again, when you're looking at one from on the steers, kind of that top view, and you're reading that shape out of the backside of their shoulder and out through their loin and hip, I think that it looks a little strange if then you don't accompany that with the right kind of body shape as it kind of teardrops off into their rib cage. And so this is something that I know, again, as I said there right at the start, is catching a lot of popularity with the steer guys. Our good friends, the Bonhams down there in Newcastle. I talked to Baylor the other day, and he's ate up with this product right now and just leaning on it pretty heavily with those steers, and says that you can make a pretty big difference pretty fast with this stuff. And so, yeah, I think it's just as important whenever you have steers. And then again, specific to Jerry's comment, whenever you're finishing one out, to keep that in there and keep their gut going, because it has a lot of goodies and extras in there to keep their gut going, and then also getting their body shape right.
Yeah. So in terms of a ratio or maybe how much full body, I know it's going to depend on the calf.
Sorry, I didn't read that probably quite as closely, but I would kind of always start with on steers, probably 2/3 grain and 1/3 full body would be kind of just an easy answer. And then you can kind of mess with it from that point. I think, again, if you think that you're pretty close on, their condition and their muscle, and you're looking to get some added body shape, then you can go as much as, a half and half or 3/4 full body, and then the remainder kind of a Sunglo finisher. And you're not going to lose that bloom and just shape and freshness in terms of their muscle. Like I was talking there earlier, it has a lot of goodies in there that it's not going to make them look just kind of dried out and stale in their muscle shape if you're going to lean more heavily on the full body. So a quick rule of thumb, I would say 2/3 grain and 1/3 full body, but then you can kind of play with it from that point.
Yeah. We've got another good question here. Really appreciate the interactive questions we've got rolling across over there in the chat. How many pounds would you feed a heifer that's kicked out? Would you feed it alone, along with hay? Thanks. Good question, Jennifer.
That's a good question. So first, I would answer that question with, whenever we're pressing on one hard, you would feed them 2% of their body weight. And maybe you could get above that at times, but that would be kind of your benchmark. And so when they're kicked out, I would go as far as to say they're kicked out. Like they're on a round bale, and we'll give them a scoop of full body, and that's kind of the extent of what they're going to eat, because we're trying to freshen them back up. And so I would say that there's probably not a lot of extras going in there at that point. Maybe you're adding in a supplement or two. But when we say kicked out, that's kind of what we say. And then what would you feed along with hay? Like I said, full body. Whenever you have those things kicked out. And it all depends on the animal. So if you have one kicked out, like you're not really working on their hair necessarily, but you're trying to keep them going in terms of condition, then you would keep in there, like a Sunglo grower along with full body and maybe full tank if you're trying to keep their guts going. But if we're talking, we've pressed on this one pretty hard and got her to kind of a maximum condition standpoint, and we're kicking her out to freshen her back up, then we would then feed full body exclusively along with a nice round bale grass hay.
Thanks. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah,
Jackie, we'll get to your question on getting more, more top for a steer or more muscle and more shape. We'll get to that one here once we hit on Man Up and Show Cattle Explosion. And then Amy, on your question on Smorfil for cattle, I can answer this one. I think that we have products that are probably better, honestly. Smorfil can work on some of them that have an appetite for that product. But at the same time, I think we've got products in our full lineup in terms of full body or full tank or to the fullest that you're probably going to get a better response out of. Nick, you've got anything to add to that? Or
no, that's how I'd answered it too.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's really great conversation there around full body. Let's jump on into full tank here. So full tank is an 8% protein, 1% fat, and a 30% fiber pellet. And I'll pull the picture up of that, because sometimes we get asked, and it's a great question, what's the difference between full tank and full body? And so this is a really good way for you guys to get those questions answered. So Nick, I'll let you take it from there, man.
For sure. Yeah, a tried and true product here for our lineup, and one that's been around forever, since before I worked here. And I actually fed it whenever I was younger and loved it. And the biggest thing that I would tell you here is the way that supplement is constructed is a little different from other competitors maybe out there in the market. And what I mean by that is there's not near as much sugar in there. And so without getting too deep in the weeds of science and how to feed livestock, because I can get a little nerdy on that stuff, sugar sits often in cattle in their chest. And so you hear a lot of judges, and probably one of those, again, kind of dweebs that can get to criticizing one if they are pretty chesty and it throws off their balance. And I know we can get into a long conversation of how ones that are full chested are usually easy doing, and those make good cows.
Easier fleshing,
yeah. It's the show ring. And so at times it can throw off their balance. And so we're trying to steer away from things that make their chest fuller. And I think that's where this product really stands out, is you can feed this at a high rate and it's not going to go as much to their chest. Now, we can't obviously guarantee anything. Right. But I think as much as anything out there amongst competitors, this one keeps them as fresh-chested and helps with just body shape. And so where this one works specifically is fill up high or kind of outward fill. It's maybe not going to be as much depth of body, but if you have one that is awesome in terms of just the shape of their rib cage from the side profile, but you read them from a 3/4 shot, and maybe they just need more punch and more open turn to their body, this is where this product works exceptionally well. And there's some different ratios you can feed this stuff. And we'll pull up a picture here of some livestock that have used it, a crew that really relies on this and has kind of been my poster child for full tank. But you can feed this anywhere from 2 to 5 pounds. And I know people that have gone past that. But that's kind of the recommended amount. And I would say that at that rate or kind of in that window, it's pretty potent. And it can really get a lot of good body shape whenever you add that into your diet. Specific to those 30 days, I would say that this is something that you're going to probably start that far out. And you can obviously have it in there earlier. But as you're trying to get kind of that show day look prepped before you go to the show, because that's what I would recommend to everybody. Don't wait till you get to the show to get them kind of what you want them to look like on show day. This is something that you definitely want to add in. If you haven't already, for sure, those final 30 days.
Let's go ahead and I'm going to pull up some good examples here that we've got on cattle that have been fed full tank. And again, this product is one of those that I feel like maybe for a while it was, one of the first ones out, right? It was one of the first to market kind of pelleted pulp products. And then it kind of went through its maturity cycle in the marketplace. And I feel like now we've probably gained as much momentum in terms of folks feeding this product as of anything that we have in our lineup. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think that like anything in the show industry, there's trends and people go for what's new. But whenever you know something works, right, you'll see people eventually come back from a loyalism standpoint. Yeah, so we have here on the screen some cattle that have been awfully successful, and this is a crew. So the first photo that I have here is of Kayla Sweeney showing her Angus heifer, and that one would be a part of the Nowatzki crew. And the next picture that I'll actually show you is also one of their heifers. They were Grand in Reserve at the National Western. I believe it was last year in the Angus show. And that's something I don't know that it's ever been done before. And so I was just astounded by that even happening to begin with. But then also this being a crew that's a good friend of ours here and of our company and big time advocates for full tank. They would tell you that this is kind of their secret weapon. So maybe I shouldn't be saying it on a Facebook Live, but this is something that they will feed at a very high rate, and they lean on it very heavily, especially in Angus. And I'm not going to poke fun at any breeds tonight, but I think we all know that those things oftentimes can be good in terms of the depth to their body, but maybe they need some outward curvature. And so it works hand in hand with those kind of cattle that maybe just need some added turn up high. And so we're pumped up to see this, and the Sweeneys are good friends of mine. And so for them to do that and then also then be kind of telling everybody that they were pretty happy and proud that it also came with a product that I believe in, I think was awfully, awfully cool. But yeah, again, if you have one, especially on these big breds that they just need some turn and shape up high and you've kept your chest in them, you don't want to kind of put that at risk. I think this is something that you got to have in there.
Yeah. Yeah, if you study these pictures and you just study both of those heifers from the side profile, I mean, talk about a silhouette that's just unbelievable on both of them. I mean, almost picture perfect there from a purebred cattle standpoint. Just really neat to see that, the kind of success that they've had with that product. So again, I think full tank is one of those that, again, we've kind of gone through the maturity cycle of that product, and here it is again, really starting to gain quite a bit of momentum. So really one that, and you talk about feeding steers too, last 30 days, if you've got to maybe, roll one up a little bit, maybe full tank is a product that you need to be looking at too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, like I said there earlier, if you have that good shape to the top side of their skeleton on those steers, you want to accompany that with that kind of body shape to the upper portion of their skeleton so it doesn't make them look flat ribbed. And not that I'm explaining anything that everybody doesn't already know, but if you have the right kind of shape up high, and you don't have the rib cage coming along with it, well, they're going to look exceptionally flat rib then.
Yes.
And so you need that added turn to the upper portion of the rib cage, and this is something that I think you got to have in your toolbox to go to war with whenever you're trying to get those things maxed out there at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing we will caution you a little bit on the steer side, if you're wanting to watch weight, a full tank will hold weight. So make sure you're paying attention and practicing a little bit
water.
at home. Yeah. Yeah. It holds water. So make sure that you're paying attention at home a little bit, and making sure that you've got your weights dialed in. But if you don't really need to get any fatter, I mean, full tank is only a 1% fat product. I mean, it's about as low as you can get, and still be considered a feed. So make sure you're paying attention there. But man, I think everybody could stand to have a bag of full body and full tank there in their arsenal and be ready to go. So really good combo. So let's keep rolling here. We'll jump into To the Fullest. So To the Fullest is the most different product that we probably have in our lineup. It's a 8% protein, 2.5% fat, and a 30% fiber haylage product. And so if you have never seen that product, man, stop at the show. Oftentimes Sullivan Supply will have that thing sitting there ready, and you open up a bag and this stuff just smells unbelievable. So I know this is one that you really like at your place, Nick.
Absolutely. And I will say, before we even go into this conversation, this is going to be your exclusive haylage option at the Cattlemen's Congress there in Oklahoma City, and it's going to be distributed through Sullivan Supply. So if you maybe can't get this before you leave the house, I already talked to some people today that left and are headed towards Oklahoma City to lay over for a couple of days, and you need a bag of this. Go ahead and get to Sullivan's there at the show, and they're going to have it, quite a bit of it too. So, yeah, I think this is a product that I'll hear a lot of guys say, yeah, we love that stuff at the show. And that's kind of the end of the conversation. And what I would urge everyone to do is to please start feeding this at the house. And I sound like a broken record, and that's not even me so much being a feed salesman for Sunglo telling you that, but as a livestock enthusiast and knowing what it can do for your livestock if you feed it further out, trust me, it's what you need to do. And I would tell you to, starting that 30 days out, or there's sometimes as we feed through the summer, if we have one that's pretty close on condition, we'll feed this every day as we're going to a show and feed it for a few months. But as you're at this point of the feeding period, as we're talking to going through the spring on these heifers, I think at the very least you need to feed this 2 weeks out. And I'll get calls from people, and I've been fielding them here for the last few weeks. I think we're doing good, but I'd like to get just a little more depth of body. What do I do? And so I'll tell you what I do, and I'm not going to keep any secrets held away. I'll go ahead and feed morning and night like I do every single time. And then as soon as they get done with their feed at night, I'll let them kick around for a half an hour or an hour. And then I'll go back out there, and on top of their hay, I'll throw some of this To the Fullest over the top of it. They'll absolutely attack it. And I think just by adding in some added filler, that's not only different, but just a little bit heavier, it helps with added depth of body. And so that gets you a few different things. It gets you that added depth that you're looking for, gets you that added fill that you're looking for. It also helps stretch the gut. And so that next morning when they come back in, they have a little bit more expansion in their gut and they're a little bit hungrier. And then also, it's not going to be the first time that you feed it when you get to the show. And so please, 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 please do not feed any of these things for the very first time at the show if you're thinking that it's going to do something specific for you. Now, I, of course, will run around, like Nathan said earlier, with the feed scoop and steal from my friends because I need something different. And that is the first time they've eaten that. But I'm not needing that to do something. It's a bit more of a kind of see what it can do, or a Hail Mary at that point. But if you're expecting a feed to do something specific, go ahead and feed it at the house before you leave.
Yeah. Lisa's got a good question we'll pull up here. How much To the Fullest do you feed? A couple handfuls?
Yeah, I get this question pretty often, and I think a lot of people are expecting a very precise answer. On the website,
my handful is different than your handful.
For sure. Yeah, on the website, I think it says 5 to 10 pounds, and that's a big window. What I always tell people, and again, my hands are a little bigger than Nathan's, but 2 big handfuls is what I typically do, like on those big breads. If you have like a calf that's going to Oklahoma City here in a week or two, I would say 1 big handful to start with, and then kind of ease them up from there if you think they need more. But a lot of times they'll tell you how much they need. So if you put some out there and you come out the next morning, there's still some there, back them down a little bit until there isn't.